as you can all tell, there's so many restrictions with COVID, so we could not do any readings, any eulogies, any speeches, any gifts. So it was a little bit of a difficult way to have a proper funeral mass, especially for a 40-year funeral director. But nonetheless, we're making the best of it. Thanks all for coming out. Thanks all of you coming out yesterday. We were actually going to do this outside in the outdoors. Thank goodness we didn't. I saw 94 degrees last night and called Mike Lindsay Jr. and said, "Can we switch it?" He said, "Yep." I said, "Wow." We all going down. So anyway, but thank you. And I want to start off with a few special thank yous. Firstly, doctors, nurses, caregivers at Mass General, Lowell General, and Palm Manor. In particular, I want to thank Dr. Andrew Romanowski and Dr. Paul Burke, who was a pallbearer today at Frank Services. They were with us throughout his diagnosis, through his treatment, and through his passing. A very special thank you to Sean Rourke and the Family Cave Funeral Home. As you know, Sean's my dad's godson. You certainly did him proud with your professionalism, especially during these confusing times. Thank you to our friends Lindsay's, minus the microphone issue. You guys have been great. And last, thank you to our incredible family and network of friends. You've been so amazingly supportive through this roller coaster of Frank's illness, and we couldn't have gotten through any of this without you, so thank you very much. I came up with a little survey. I'd like to see a showing of hands. How many of you out there ever ran with Frank? Jogged, ran, marathon? I think it's only Leo Cregan in the room, maybe. How many of us were on Frank's sailboat? How many of you golfed with Frank? Skied with Frank? Had a piece of furniture built by Frank? Live in a house that was built or rehabbed by Frank? How many of you helped through the loss of a loved one through Frank? How many of you have had a cocktail with... I know the hands. 2 hands, everyone. Whether you knew Frank as Frankie, Big Frank, Dr. Pleasure, Fat Red. Yes, he was called Fat Red as a young man because he was fat and red. But you knew him as a trusted friend and confidant. If you knew him as Cousin Frank, Uncle Frank, Brother Frank, Father Frank, not as in clergy, as in Dad, Father Frank, or husband Frank, you knew he had the most loyal, loving family man who always had your back no matter what. At a young age, Frank had an adventurous and, dare I say, devilish spirit in him. In the early years, he found himself in trouble with the teachers, priests, and brothers that attempted to educate him during his lifelong Catholic journey. Frank was more likely to be found on the beaches of the North Shore or the slopes of the New Hampshire than in the classroom. Frank did not like school. When Courtney and I were young, I remember getting ready for school and watching him pick up his ski gear and say, "Don't go to school today. You don't need school. I hated school." He said, "Well, either way, I'm going skiing, so have a good day." Thank God Mom was a better influence on our educational practices. Following those formative years, Frank bounced around a few jobs before his permanent stay at the funeral home, including a job as a shoe salesman. That career lasted him approximately 7 days, at which point she was fired for delicately telling a woman, a female customer, that there's no way that your fat foot is fitting in that shoe. No Al Bundy. For a short time, Frank actually played pool for a living. A couple of years. Hanging out with, shall we say, sordid characters in seedy pool halls around Lowell, Frank was able to scratch up enough dough to take Paula to dinner on Saturday. Which brings me to the most educated decision Frank ever made when he developed the courage to ask out Paula Healy when they were just 16 years old. Frank finally got the guts to call the home of Bob and Helen Healy and asked to speak to Paula, their 4th child. When Paula took the phone, she frantically told fumbling Frank, "I can't talk right now, my sister just had a baby. My mother just had a baby." A confused and likely sweaty Frank responded, "How old is your mother?" And that's how we know the timetable on Susan's life. Frank did eventually get that date, and the rest is really history for the last 47 years. Professionally, Frank ran the Family Cape Funeral Home, a business his grandfather started along with his dad, Eddie. When Eddie fell ill, Frank seamlessly took charge and proudly ran things for 40 years. In my estimation, he was a master of this noble trade and helped literally thousands of grieving families over the years. I was always very proud to hear those stories from folks that Frank helped them through the darkest and saddest days of their lives. Dad, I wish you were here to guide this family right now. When he hung up those shiny funeral shoes, he got back to his true passion, building. He dabbled in woodworking and general contracting in his younger days, but now fully invested himself in his pride and joy, Aspenwood. He even built a few things for himself and our family, but if the price was right, it was sold. Sometimes we'd have the car packed to literally go visit him at his new vacation home, and he'd tell me, he'd say, "Don't bother, it's gone." "Sorry, buddy, house is sold." And this is one of his famous phrases, "It's just a box of wood and nails." I'll build another one. He worked until his very last days. In fact, he still has active projects going as we speak, and Courtney and I will probably be on the phone with them after we leave here today. Frank loved to have fun. He helicopter skied out in the West on many occasions, and even had the deep powder tracks of he and his buddies featured in a photo in Time magazine. He ran the Boston Marathon in 1980 on a $1,000 bet he took at the prior Thanksgiving. At the time, Frank was not in good shape, 235-pound smoker. Come April, he had trained and ran the race at a slender 149 pounds in under 4 hours, no less. Dad, I hope you share those winnings with Mom. Frank loved the ocean and sailing. He bought and sold a few boats, always looking for the perfect fit. All of his slips aptly named Courtney after my sister. Courtney shared his love of sailing. Paula and I shared our love of the land. Thanks very much, no thanks, sharks kill. He captained many trips, including an epic 6-week adventure that took him from Portsmouth to Boston to Hyannis to Martha's Vineyard. We all know Frank loved an adventure. But Frank's greatest adventure was his family. We were so fortunate to take some great trips with Mom and Dad. He loved nothing more than hosting a cookout, a holiday party, or just a Sunday afternoon get-together. Can't tell you how many times that phone would ring, and I'd hear his voice say, "Hey, let's light the grill today, sound good?" So many great days and nights with all the family being together. That made Frank his happiest. In these last few years, Frank received the devastating news of his pancreatic cancer. Not surprising to report, he fought an epic and brave battle. He took the cancer on full steam, like he did every challenge in his life. I remember the day after the first intensive chemotherapy treatment, one that was supposed to truly knock him down for many days to follow. Frank called me and said, "I feel pretty good, buddy. Maybe I should call them back and see if they can give me some more of that chemo." And that ball. He fought every hard day until his very last. Mom, Courtney, and I were with him in the final hours as he left us peacefully last Wednesday. A devout Catholic, we know Frank is in a better place with his loved ones that were before him, probably holding court right now. Looking down saying, "Look at all these fools in these masks. Glad I'm here." We all loved you so much, Dad. You were simply the best. You were my hero. So until I see you again, buddy, let God take you home down that country road. Thank you. And the microphone's open. If anyone wants to share a story, keep it PG-13-ish.